now that we've knocked out some important information and just some build between us, because I mean, we're gonna have to do this more, bro. I got 1,000 things I want to talk to you about, so we're gonna have to, not even just for the people, but just for the build.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh, hell
Real
yeah.
rap.
Why
Okay.
not?
You know what I mean? So I don't even need that per se. So I know, like, when I went through the book, is it a book? Is it a pamphlet? Like, how do you describe what you created here, so I don't misquote or speak on that?
Well, it is a book. It's a first edition of the mental discipline. So I have another edition called Soul for Success for the modern entrepreneur. And that more speaks to the spiritual side of the sport.
Yeah.
Other sport, people's like, the practice and all that, but at the end of the day, it's still like, God, let me have a good game this weekend, So understanding the spiritual side of, that's what the spiritual success for the modern entrepreneur talks about. So this is more like a book. It's also dropped it as an ebook, so it's on, available only through my site, but you could download it, print it like we have here, and
Exactly.
Give it a gift to someone, or learn the concepts in there yourself. So I'll say it's a book.
Yeah,
sure.
and when I was flipping through it, I'm like, I have a similar offering where I will show people how to show up consistently and authentically, but you've been mentioning that before you can even get to that place, there has to be that foundation. And we were talking about prior to the interview about just repatriating our ancestors were able to do the work to relieve us of our physical enslavement, and then now we're here to do the work of the mental and spiritual. And when I saw this and was flipping through it very briefly, I'm like, that's where I can see a lot of like the building blocks of what we need to get done in these type of works. So I'm here to actually just to learn more about what you're offering, because it's like I'm getting like a free master class low key. You know what I mean? So what?
Absolutely.
Before the 15 mental principles or the practices that you have, like the list of things, you have like a lot of
characteristics.
Yeah, you have a lot of things in the beginning. So can you expound on like how you structured this and led the path?
Absolutely. Just trying to get to that content page somewhere here. There we go. So that's basically what the book is kind of all about. So before getting to the mental disciplines of entrepreneurship, you first got to understand the benefits and the downside of entrepreneurship. If you fall more in the downside, then it's probably not for you.
Right.
If you fall more in the benefits, then try it out. But before that, I talked about the what is an entrepreneur. So you're understanding what an entrepreneur is, as like the definition of it. Like like what is basketball, what is football, what is doctor, what is a school. Understanding that perspective. And then I broke it down to the 7 characteristics of entrepreneurship. And these 7 characteristics speaks to our curiosity, our imagination, our persistence, and adaptability. So it's just
before you move on, let me. So those 7, you said 7 principles.
7 characteristics. So this is like,
okay,
if I could look at someone, and if I could identify all of these things.
Okay, let's go through those things, right?
If I could identify all these things on them, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's probably an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So it's like, if you see a baller.
Yeah, you see the shoes, you see the jump shot form, you see.
Like, oh, he got something.
Yeah.
So that's if I see an entrepreneur, based on talking to
these
them,
are the characteristics
in life, I'm like.
I'm passionate, boy. I'm telling you, like it's some of these. I'm like, yeah, I was born for this. I was like, yeah, this is a good one. I appreciate you expounding. Okay.
Bro, the crazy part on this stuff is like when I put this book together, I did a review on myself. And I'm like, damn, am I really meant for this sport?
Yeah, that's why I wanted you to tell me, because I'm like, now I'm intrigued, right?
Like, I'm actually doing the work that's in here, and I'm, evaluating myself. I'm like, damn, it's like, it's like a coach and the players. If you're a coach or you're a commentator, you don't have the strength as a player, but you understand the game in a different perspective. So, I'm like, damn, that's so crazy. You know, it's giving me these different ways to look at it. But like I was saying in the book, 7 characteristics of entrepreneurship: your curiosity, persistence, adaptability, your passion, your motivation, your vision, and the most important one, your willingness to learn. So that is the art of learning, and also the hunger to learn. Because, you know, the school system tell us you go through this, go to college, and then you can't.
You're good, right? You're straight.
That's not really true. So if you have the ability to learn at every stage you're on, just like even though we're engaging with building, but we're still learning from one another in this moment, if you put that into every practice, in everything you do, then as a person you will increase your whatever learning capacity. So for me, I go through the concept of, or I subscribe to the concept of wanting to improve by 1% a day. Because if you do that, then you get like 36-point-some%
right.
better
every year.
Every year.
Absolutely.
So,
I love that concept. When I learned it, I was like, "Oh, that's bad."
Yeah.
I remember.
Like, you know, numbers is the language of the universe. That's why I was very intentional about the numbers in here. The number 7 is a powerful number. 15 is powerful as well. The 13 discipline in here is also a very powerful number, in that I don't really recall what it is, but that it also talks about a very powerful principle in this book as well. But with the characteristics, I have, after I break down the characteristics of, you know, what we just spoke about, also another thing that it's in entrepreneurship, it's visionary. We just are, you know, a God-like ability that we have to, you know, tap into an idea and be a visionary and actually build the idea and put our, you know, sweat, blood, equity into it, our, you know, life energy into it.
Literally.
So if you have that, it's not just about, oh, I have an idea. You know, you could be a visionary where you could, you know, build that idea as well. This is 2 parts. So that's also another important characteristic.
Before you move on with that, right? And please hold on to your thought, because I want you to continue to expound. I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
You know, in the society we grew up in, there's the people who do the work and do the thinking. Do you think that takes... What do you think about that concept of separating that order of like self, just, you know, manifesting it, you having the idea and you doing the work? You know, the society we live in, if somebody thinks it, the other person, someone else does the work, and then someone else is in charge of thinking while the people are tasked with the work.
I think in the society of the world, that's basically how everybody work now. Not just, you know, current, but entrepreneurship speaks to the balance of both nature, whether you're a thinker or you're a doer. When you get in the game of entrepreneurship, you have to go through every stages and every quote-unquote job roles to make it to the CEO level.
You gotta sweep the floors before you can do the top floor.
Even when you do that, you will now have the power to hire the right people for those jobs because you've gone through it yourself. But if you just, I'm a CEO, then someone's like, yeah, bro, I'm good
at for cameras.
Yeah, it's like, you're good. Like, it's like, yeah, I'm the treasurer. It's like, come on board.
Come through.
Like, it gives you on, and then that, you know, you're not really building. That's why, like, this is the art of it, breaking it down. In that, to understand the game of it, everything's a game. So once you understand the game, you understand, oh, it's crazy. The next wave, I believe, is it's already happening, you know, with the likes of, you know, one of the brothers, 19 Keys and all the other people, you know, that he be building with. They're already tapping into that sport. But I believe the next sport is understanding the business, what business is. That, you know, like to answer your question, like the thinkers and the doers. Like, we in a society where most of the quote unquote white people are the thinkers.
Absolutely.
And, you know, other people are the doers. But if you understand what they're thinking about all the time, then you will also be a thinker. and then you could hire doers.
This is a fact.
That's why I have the book How Successful People Think.
Yeah.
So, like so it's like a strategy around how they think. So like I know what.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm in my late 20s, and the homie that I subscribe to or mentor that I subscribe to through that work in that 70s. Right now I'm all right back. When he was in his late 20s, this is what he was doing.
Right.
He was faced with this challenge and overcame it through this thinking strategy. So I'm gonna apply that right now.
Right, I'm gonna apply that, right.
What people don't understand in our community is that knowledge is not a racial thing. Race is only physical.
Yeah.
So when we talk about concepts, talk about learning and knowledge, we're like, oh, that's the white man way of thinking. That's the black man way of thinking. What?
Yeah.
Like what? It's like a weird thing. It's like, nah, that's thinking is we don't have individual thoughts.
Exactly.
We tap into an ether of the knowledge that exists. In the universe.
Right.
So it's like, if you have the ability to tap into that ether, you can't.
You're gonna receive.
Yeah, you're gonna receive whatever they're receiving.
Yeah.
So that is part of it. Is taking care of your body, eating well, and Rastafarism as well is a big push in that, because that Rastafarism comes from the original African way of living. Exactly. Before colonialism.
Right.
So stuff that actually we talked about with how they got to our people spiritually first. So by applying all of those, you're better suited for the sport of entrepreneurship. But before you get into that, I talked about the benefits and downside. But the most important thing is, are you an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur?
Yeah, I seen that in there as well.
Yeah. So an entrepreneur is what we've been talking about. Have the drive, determination to go after and create your own lane, that God-like lane. An intrapreneur, however, is someone who has the same ability, but is more structured within a system that's already created for them. So the entrepreneur is like an implementer of an idea. So if you have an idea, it goes back to the doer and the thinker. If you're an amazing doer, if you're very amazing at doing and applying, right? You get and you pair yourself with someone who's amazing at thinking.
Absolutely.
That way, they're gonna meet you exactly where you want them to meet you all the time.
All the
You're
time.
putting in the same effort on both, sides of it. It's like, our brains, the, logical and, creation part of our brain, the masculine and feminine, however way people tap into it, the neocortex and limbic side. Both are pushing at the same time, but that exists in people. So if you pair with that person, whether you're a doer or a thinker, that way you're both serving one another through your your human ability. Yeah. So with what I was saying with knowledge is, you can't really put a concept on it and say, this is this person's knowledge. No, it's all for us as humans. So for me, it's us, and again, talking about if civilization started in Africa, then knowledge started in Africa. It's all ours anyway. Right. So I think the concept that keeps a lot of people from wanting to tap into these ideas that the quote unquote leaders of the world have is because they feel like, oh, that's a white man way of living. That's a black man way of living. That's an Indian man way of living.
When you showed me this book and I seen that white man praying on that cliff, I said, I had to like override. Yeah, I had to override that. I had to override it. But it hit me though.
You have, because it's like, even with these concepts, and I'll tell you the reason why. With Brandon, and this is a concept that Dr. Joe Dispenza, if I'm saying his name right, I believe I did. He said something one time in an interview. He said that if you want to hide the divine, if you want to hide God, put it inside the human. Yeah. Because they will look everywhere else. You feel me?
Absolutely.
So
yeah, real rap.
That's what we do. We search everywhere. But what this book is about is actually
about what's within
us. What's within. So the power of Brandon and how the word works is that these books and our belief system and what we subscribe to, a quote unquote white person knows by putting this man on this cover, I'm gonna reach more white people than black people.
Exactly.
But I don't care about the man on the cover. I care about what's inside. You feel me? So that's like you say, you got to override. Even with this, it's not about the money on the cover. It's about the concepts of, you know, how to think
people
about,
might pick that up and be like, I'm about to get some money. Yeah, like, real rap.
It's about at
That's
all.
a fact.
So you got to literally subscribe to the inside of the internal thing. And so even with the other books that I have and all these other things, I'm not like, usually I feel an energy to a book, and then, you know, I just spend some time reading it, and then, you know, I pick it up. It's or I don't, but it's like everything in the world that we live in, people need to understand is branded. It's about branding. Entrepreneurship is about branding yourself as a person. And that could lead into business as well, which is part of the things I talk about in that book. But the branding in the system that we exist in is telling us not to believe this, not to subscribe to this, not to do this, not to listen to this. But they're only branded that way. They're only branded to appear fearful to us, or only branded to appear in a way that is lame to us, because it actually has knowledge. And they don't want that knowledge to serve us. They want that knowledge to serve their people.
Absolutely.
So with us understanding that, if we have the ability to, one, read something and then
serve ourselves.
Yeah, this not for me, or serve yourself.
Yeah.
You have the ability to choose. That's the God in you. So it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that ain't for me. But most people, you know, it says somebody had to, you know, also learn, don't judge the book by its cover.
Yeah, that thought went through my head as you were saying.
Yeah, that's just how it goes. You know, like for real. But that's why I told you, like, when I picked up this John, it's like, you know, it's the rephrased version or reprised version, however way it goes. So this is not the original cover.
Okay.
But for me, the information was most important than the cover.
That's funny that I mentioned this and it's a different cover. That's funny that you just said that. Okay. So I appreciate you even going in on those 7 characteristics, if that was all of them correctly spit, right? So
yeah, and then the 15 principles, or the 15 disciplines.
Yeah.
It's also in here. But you can keep talking, see if I find it.
Yeah, I mean, when I initially was going through the work of it, I'm like, this is so concise. So it's not like I have to drain all of myself or energy, because that's what people, as you said, is the fear of encountering, like, I guess, learning or doing something new or trying to grow. There's
failure.
Yeah, it's a fear of failure. There you go. And so it was encouraging as I'm flipping through it. I'm like, wow, this is so concise. And I prefer that, right? I mean, obviously, if you got to sift through some things to get what you need, then that's what's required. But I appreciate the fact that you are making this experience super efficient and effective for who's ever, gaining it for themselves. So does that go in alignment with, how I would want to propose it as a question, like, how does the discipline element prescribe or subscribe to the entrepreneur part? Like, how did you connect that? Because, I guess when I was introduced to entrepreneurship, and especially coming from predominantly intrapreneurs communities,
right,
they're like, that's like lawless, that's chaotic, no one makes money doing that, that's not the way the world works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then discipline is associated, sometimes juxtaposed to the idea of entrepreneurship. People think they're going to become an entrepreneur and just be able to do whatever they want, however way they want, and make money doing it.
Yeah.
So how did you, why, not even how, why do you connect the two as like having mental discipline as a successful trait of entrepreneurship?
It's easy to talk about it through sports, because everybody
gets
quote unquote understands sport. But the greats in sport, they talk about the mental side of the sport. The likes of people that subscribe to the likes of the Bron, the Jordans, the Kobe's, and other people in other sports, Serena Williams and all them. They talk about the mental discipline of the sport. They don't really talk about,
hitting the racket.
They don't talk about none of that stuff. They talk about, the work they do behind the scenes, like, because even like Bron spending over $1 million on his body health and food and all of that.
Cryogenic chambers and all types
Like,
of shit.
people got to understand is about, like, you know, how well you take up the mental space. That's what creates the physical reality that you experience in the world. So for me, breaking down the concept first in a clear and concise way and in a way that is easily digestible. That's a 50-page book.
Very.
And I taught that on a virtual workshop in 2 hours. And everybody got the concepts that I was, breaking down for them in real time. So with that, I also, like I was talking about, understanding the behind the scenes of branding and understanding graphic design and advertising, was I had to put the information in a way and in a system that, one, thinking about how it's going to be received. Because I was thinking about it when I received these information in like books. I was like, damn, taking me like 4 hours to read this book. Take me, 12 hours to read this book. Damn, someone knocking it out in like 30 minutes. Damn. I'm like, damn, I got to get better with this. So it's like now I'm in a space of actually curating information in a way that it relates more to us, our brain.
Yeah.
And in a way that we could easily digest it and like, oh, this makes sense.
I felt like the quotables are like stop signs or like rest stops.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm diving in, and then it's like a quote to kind of like center you and like anchor the whole vibe.
Right. And even like the reason why the quotes, you can't really see it in this one, but the quotes in the color one are this color blue right here. And the blue is the same of, blue is a mindful color. It allows our minds to relax and kind of take in the information, build trust in the mental space, in the psychology of who we are. So, it's the color of the sky and everything reflected in the water. So it allows us to have a balance. So we are more, that's why like most baby products are blue in that kind of environment, or the nursery and all that, because so it's the same way with the information. But speaking of quotes, a quote here that I really like from Jim Rohn, it says, "Suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret." And I feel like every day that's a decision we got to make as entrepreneurs. Are you in the game for instant gratification or delayed gratification? So if you are for instant gratification, then it probably gonna come with some form of regret later.
Yeah.
But if it's delayed gratification, then you got to subscribe to the pain of discipline. So how could you, the motivational speaker, Eric Thomas, got a great quote. He said, you're already in pain, why not get a reward from it?
I know that's right.
You're already suffering, why not attach it to a reward?
Yeah.
So you're already gonna suffer the pain of regret or discipline. So why
get
not
something out of it?
Exactly. You're already gonna go through the fire. Why not attach it to a reward? So for me, committing to the pain of discipline is now, okay, what discipline can I commit to? Not every discipline is for you. Once you gotta understand yourself, your purpose, and your passion, and how you move. So these 15 mental disciplines, clarity, commitment, competence, evolution, self-mastery, which I feel like is the most important one. Positive thinking, health, time management, your faith, research, the ability to idea testing, business plans, development, money management,
right,
which we got to get really familiar with, money literacy in the community, the art of negotiating in any situation, and your mental resiliency, which is like your mental strength, the ability to bend but not break, be flexible, and imagine your mind as elastic. The farther you take it back, further ahead it's going to swing you. So creating that balance. So for me, subscribing to these discipline has allowed me to cultivate a more holistic and a more easing and peaceful entrepreneurship journey. Even though, I go through everything everybody go through.
Exactly.
I got bills for my car, bills for my rent, bills for the space. I got all these stuff that everybody got. But for me, I understand I'm not able to operate if I don't operate myself. So In the morning, I got a morning routine, wake up, which is in here.
I was about to say, you mentioned that first hour.
That's in there, yeah. To win that first hour, you gotta win the first minutes. To win the first minutes, you gotta win the first seconds.
Yeah.
So to win the first second is, you got 586,000 hours, I believe, or 400, 586,400 seconds in a day. So how many, if you, I wake up in the first minute of my day, so I just
your
pick
mind
up
go
the phone.
immediately,
It's like, oh, no,
yeah.
just put it down.
Yeah.
That's only 60 seconds.
First 60,
You're
huge.
gonna throw away the remaining 5. You got a lot more,
Yeah.
put it down, So for me, now when I go to sleep, my phone is in the other room and it's on airplane mode.
I know that.
Not
Who you
disturb.
telling, right?
When I'm sleeping, I wake up, I subscribe to making up my bed, saying gratitude and writing in a journal, because that centers me. And I also go out and get fresh air into my lungs and fresh sunlight into my eye. Then I come back and, do what I got to do and plan the day, whether with work, create a checklist system for myself to follow through, things to do, people to call, catch up on. It's not like I will complete all of those things in the day, but I will be further along than I was when I woke up. And, but the important part is, one of the rappers, and shout him out, I don't really listen to rap no more, but one of the rappers I used to listen to, Dom Kennedy, he said, in order to be successful, you gotta brush your teeth.
I know that's right. Yes, sir.
So you wake up in the morning, that's one of the morning routine, but that's just the simplicity of success.
Exactly.
But what he's talking about is success in the incremental sense, where it's all gonna add up. So for me, it's like in the military, once you wake up, you gotta make up your bed, because that's the first action that you have. That's the first task you have, and it's very important because when you make up your bed, it puts you in the action mode. You put your brain in the action mode. Your brain is already like, okay, today we're gonna be doing things. Your brain has already subscribed to the dopamine of action. Right away, it's like, oh, I made up my bed. I feel
I'm doing
feel
something.
good.
Yeah.
I feel good. I need to do it. So, all right, what's the next thing I gotta do? So, all right, maybe I take care of them dishes from last night. Oh, I feel more good.
Do my hair or something. Yeah.
So you're in an action building mode. So taking care of your bed is really good. But like I was talking about my checklist, whether I go through all of them or not, or I don't do anything after I make up my bed that day. At the end of the day, regardless of what day I had, whether it was a good day or bad day, my bed is going to be made up and it's going to be waiting for me to quote unquote receive me in a way that it welcomes me as a person. But I did that earlier in the day. So I did that for my future self, who was going to receive that later in the day. So it's like, and then that puts us in the mindset of, doing it again. So basically you look at a day as a whole year and you break it down that way. Your first 12 hours is the first 6 months. You break it down, your first, 6 hours is the first 3 months of the year. So what are you doing? That's the sun is moving. That's like a whole year right there.
And that's a good thing to have order in your life, because without it, more chaos just produce more chaos if you don't have some form of, like you said, discipline or self-awareness. So I want to continue the conversation, by implementing some, I have a question. I want to implement like a question related to one of these 15 disciplines.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just check this joint real quick.
Absolutely.